for the past 8 years or so, I believe that you've all been living in separate cities. Now, how on earth...
I live in Melbourne. I'm right next door to you.
Really? Come over for a drink.
I wish. Melbourne is like the most beautiful place. But anyway.
So, how on earth does it work living in separate cities?
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Do you do a lot of like Skype calls like this one, or like sharing playlists for inspiration?
Skype calls. When things start to get dark in the call, I just put on the sunglasses, the elfin glasses.
Nice.
Help lighten the mood. Sometimes I go for little stuff like that. Little filters to
now we're talking.
To, like change the mood a little bit. It is like they're lighting gel samples.
That's really cool.
Each with a number. Can you see any of that? Maybe it's hard to see, but these are like standardized, lighting gel. Variations that many of the sort of medium-sized venues that we play have on file. And so actually at this point things have started to switch to like everybody's doing LEDs. So
sure.
But before LEDs were really big and everybody had replaced their lighting system with LEDs, you had to like specify, I want number 44 middle rows, and I want that pointed at my hair, or something like that. And the person goes up there and puts this gel inside this incandescent bulb, and then your hair looks, medium rose or whatever. We email each other MP3 ideas a lot. We really ought to mail each other lossless, wave files or something higher quality, but those don't fit in an email. So it's, it's an extra step of admin for us to have to send those. So we'll send MP3s and very much of Future Teenage Cave Artist was created by a process of one person emailing an MP3, some rough idea that they'd come up with at home. Maybe they made up a little guitar part, or they played a drum beat, or sang a melody into their phone or something. They email it to everybody else, and then somebody else is like, oh yeah, I like that. Here, let me try something. And then they add another instrument to it, or they add their voice to it. Send an MP3 back. It's like, wow, cool. And then somebody else had something else. And all of this process was intended to be creating demos that we were then going to meet and record together. But over the process, this often happens to us, and it's one of maybe the landmines of being completely self-produced, DIY, is that and sort of having unlimited time. We're not on the clock. And so as the months pass, you're kind of like, I'm kind of getting attached to this rough demo version. There's some magic in there that I don't think we're going to be able to recreate if we try to meet up and it's like, okay, we've got 2 days and we're going to record all these songs over again. There was so many little accidents and funny noises and just, there's a certain feeling that can happen when somebody's recording something and no one's watching them. They're at home and it's the middle of the night and their mood is a little different than it would be if they're being watched and somebody's sitting there with a red light record button on or pressing a space bar and saying, okay, go. And so I think something maybe more intimate happens when you're recording, but you don't think it's going to be for the real record. You're kind of, it's warts and all, some flaws come out and idiosyncrasies come out that you imagined that you're gonna fix later. And then after a while, we started to realize it was that very presence of unself-conscious, idiosyncratic personal expression passed around between us and filled with flaws and with, and lo-fi that became the quality of the songs that we were working on, that we kept being haunted by. That started to become not just an accidental feature of the record, but it started to become the record. In fact, it sort of became the it helped to generate the theme of the record. And lyrics often came later. And I feel like that feeling of isolation and kind of self-doubt, self-questioning, wondering if anyone is hearing what you're doing, and you feel like you're just alone in your little cave, that kind of ended up developing into what the lyrics were about,
Now, I need to pull you up on that, because you just mentioned isolation. In my research that I did earlier, in a 2012 interview, you said that an attitude of being isolated as an artist is completely unhelpful. So what would you say now, given the current situation that we find ourselves in, and indeed the fact that you're all based in New York? No.
I wonder what I meant. I wonder what context I was referring to. I mean, I think that isolation alone is unhelpful. I think isolation alternating with confrontation, with other human beings, with the world, with actual sound blaring through speakers, is also, you're lost without that. And I mean, I think even Elton John, could probably agree that one aspect of the lifestyle of many musicians is this alternation between the isolation and privacy of songwriting and the semi-isolation of recording, and then the total opposite, the public display and mutual celebration of touring. And where at one point you're trying to go deep into you're trying to face your or even gain access to unconscious thoughts and feelings in the process of trying to write something, which can be tricky, Like if you're a guitar player, it's like a lot of times your fingers just have habits, and they end up kind of just playing the same stuff a lot. And you want to like go deeper into yourself and into your own unconscious and into your own dreams to try and find something, not just a shallow habit of your fingers, but something like, what are my real desires? What are my real fears?
So how do you actually, what's your process for actually breaking free of that constraint?
I mean, I was taught a long time ago that by now I was supposed to be able to have an answer to a question like that, but and that at some point, any artist can say definitively what their method is.
Sure.
But a weird coincidence I think about Deerhoof is that I think across the board, all four of us can say with total confidence about ourselves and each other that none of us has a method that we can rely on. And what worked yesterday does not seem to work tomorrow. I mean, I've got lots of tricks that I try. Sometimes I'll listen to a bunch of music online. I usually use the iTunes Music Store. I don't think anybody even remembers what that is anymore. But there's this funny thing where you can buy music, which is how I buy music. And you can listen to previews. And I mean, you just go and listen to previews. I'll listen to an hour of previews of stuff. And then at the end of the hour, it's like I've got snippets of totally random stuff just in my head. And then I pull out a piece of, manuscript paper or something. And I'm like, and I start to hear like little music ideas. And they might be kind of influenced by what I heard. They could be continuations of what I heard. They could be some kind of mashed together imagination of several of the things that I heard, smushed into one. And but mostly they're just coming from inside. But hearing all that snippets of random and totally unfamiliar music got the juices flowing,
Sure.
Sometimes I'll try sleep deprivation. I find that, it's like if I do an all-nighter, I mean, I think everybody has this. If you end up having to do an all-nighter for whatever, flying to Australia, I mean, is a great example. I get no sleep on the plane. By the time I arrive in Australia, I'm borderline hallucinating, because it's been 30 hours of being awake, more than 30 hours because I was awake before I got on the plane.
Sure.
And so 30 hours of being awake, and you just start, I start hearing music a lot of times. And I mean, it's unhealthy to do that a lot, but I can get away with it sometimes. And sometimes it's incredibly like I can write 5 songs, in one sitting when I'm, sort of in that state. I don't know, it's like I'm always searching for ways. And you never know. I think a big part of being a creative person is not that you're banging your head against a wall trying to create. It's also listening, being ready. It's sort of like having an open question or set of questions. You just got a big question mark. And everything you see and hear around you is a potential answer to your questions. And if you're asking questions, then answers will appear from unexpected sources. And that, to me, being open to the possibility that something is the beginning of a new idea is maybe the biggest part of creativity.